am so happy to be here with you all for Spoken World Online, week number 55. And just putting some links in the chat there. So I have been, one project I've been doing is doing some complete books. And I'm just finishing up a complete reading of Jurgen, A Comedy of Justice by James Branch Cabell, first published in 1919 and influential and controversial at the time. And I put a link to the complete reading. If anybody ever has insomnia, needs help going to sleep, you can tune that in. This is a section from that book and our trouble with language, perhaps. This is the judging of Jurgen. Now a court was held by the Philistines to decide whether or no King Jurgen should be relegated to limbo. And when the judges were prepared for judging, there came into the court a great tumblebug, rolling in front of him his loved and properly housed young ones. With the creature came pages in black and white, bearing a sword, a staff, and a lance. This insect looked at Jurgen, and its pincers rose erect in horror. The bug cried to the three judges, "Now, by St. Anthony, this Jurgen must forthwith be relegated to limbo, for he is offensive and lewd and lascivious and indecent." "And how can that be?" says Jurgen. "You are offensive," the bug replied, "because this page has a sword, which I choose to say is not a sword. You are lewd, because that page has a lance, which I prefer to think is not a lance. You are lascivious, because yonder page has a staff, which I elect to declare is not a staff. And finally, you are indecent for reasons of which a description would be objectionable to me, and which therefore I must decline to reveal to anybody." "Well, that sounds logical," says Jurgen, "but still at the same time it would be no worse for an admixture of common sense. For you, gentlemen, can see for yourselves by considering these pages fairly and as a whole that these pages bear a sword and a lance and a staff and nothing else whatever. And you will deduce, I hope, that all the lewdness is in the insectival mind of him who itches to be calling things by other names." The judges said nothing as yet, but they that guarded Jurgen and all the other Philistines stood to this side and to that side with their eyes shut tight. And all these said, "We decline to look at the pages fairly and as a whole, because to look might seem to imply a doubt of what the tumblebug has decreed. Besides, as long as the tumblebug has reasons, which he declines to reveal, his reasons stay unanswerable, and you are plainly a prurient rascal who are making trouble for yourself." "To the contrary," says Jurgen, "I am a poet, and I make literature." "But in Philistia, to make literature and to make trouble for yourself are synonyms," the tumblebug explained. "I know, for already we of Philistia have been pestered by 3 of these makers of literature. Yes, there was Edgar, whom I starved and hunted until I was tired of it, and then I chased him up a back alley one night and knocked out those annoying brains of his. And there was Walt, whom I chivied and battered from place to place and made a paralytic of him, and him too I labeled offensive and lewd and lascivious and indecent. Then later there was Mark, whom I frightened into disguising himself in a clown suit, so that nobody might suspect him to be a maker of literature. Indeed, I frightened him so that he hid away the greater part of what he had made until after he was dead, and I could not get at him. That was a disgusting trick to play on me, I consider. Still, these are the only 3 detected makers of literature that have ever infested Philistia. Thanks be to goodness and my vigilance. But for both of which we might have been no more free from makers of literature than are the other countries. Now but these 3, cried Jurgen, are the glory of Philistia, and of all that Philistia has produced, it is these 3 alone, whom living ye made least of, that today are honored wherever art is honored, and where nobody bothers one way or the other about Philistia. What is art to me in my way of living, replied the tumblebug wearily. I have no connection with art and letters and the other lewd idols of foreign nations. I have in charge the moral welfare of my young, whom I roll here before me and trust with St. Anthony's aid to raise in time to be God-fearing tumblebugs like me, delighting in what is proper to their nature. For the rest, I have never minded dead men being well spoken of. No, no, my lad, once whatever I may do means nothing to you, and once you are really rotten, you will find the tumblebug friendly enough. Meanwhile, I am paid to protest that living persons are offensive and lewd and lascivious and indecent, and one must live. Then the Philistines who stood to this side and to that side said in indignant unison, and we, the reputable citizenry of Philistia, are not at all in sympathy with those who would take any protest against the tumblebug as a justification of what they are pleased to call art. The harm done by the tumblebug seems to us very slight, whereas the harm done by the self-styled artist may be very great. Jurgen now looked more attentively at this queer creature, and he saw that the tumblebug was malodorous, certainly, but at bottom honest and well-meaning, and this seemed to Jurgen the saddest thing he had found among the Philistines. For the tumblebug was sincere in his insane doings, and all Philistia honored him sincerely, so that there was nowhere any hope for this people. Therefore King Jurgen addressed himself, as his need was, to submit to the strange customs of the Philistines. Now do you judge me fairly, cried Jurgen to his judges. If there be any justice in this mad country, and if there be none, do you relegate me to limbo or to any other place so long as in that place this tumblebug is not omnipotent and sincere and insane. And Jurgen waited.